I cannot believe this is a real article. The LA Times has isolated a picture of Christians praying and is comparing them to Nazis. Now, the title of this article, Letters to the Editor, are they praying for Trump or are they giving a salute? I will show you guys where they try to make the comparison to Nazis, but I also want to show you the media hypocrisy because Kamala Harris also appeals to Christianity. She goes to churches and you see the same exact hand movements and motions, but nobody says those are a bunch of Nazis. Let me go ahead and dissect all of this for you. And if I'm going to be honest with you, as a Christian myself, I really do think some action needs to be taken because this is very offensive.
Lord, in the name of Jesus, I pray a hedge fence of protection.
Whoa, guys, do you see this still image totally taking out of context of these Christians praying over a leader? Even though I don't agree with almost anything Kamala Harris has to say, one thing I do agree with is that Christians are to pray for their leaders. It is commanded. However, you can see the irony that not a single person from the LA Times screenshot this, and they know this event happened. This was a massive event. You see all these hands back here in their arms? That looks awfully suspicious. It reminds me of some soldiers back in World War II. You don't see any of that rhetoric. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that the LA Times is a left-leaning publication, but I want to be fair. They did not endorse Kamala Harris. However, the fact that editors are quitting and people who work for the LA Times are quitting because they did not endorse Kamala Harris, the tone of the newspaper is all you need to know. This is a newspaper that almost never, ever supports anything Donald Trump has to say and is vastly pro-Kamala Harris. Okay, let's dissect this article real quick, and then I will show you what's actually going on. People are afraid of Christians because now they hold the power and they hold the vote. Many Christians don't even realize that this is one of the elections in history where Christians can now elect who they want to elect, and they hold the popular vote, the majority vote. The power is to the Christian. I will show you that in a bit. But again, this article is pretty bad to begin with. Here's the first letter to the editor. It's laughable that former President Trump calls Vice President Kamala Harris lazy. This is coming from a man who spent more time on a golf course than any other president. Again, these are just a bunch of like random little letters and sections, kind of just hating on Donald Trump. But when you scroll to the very bottom, the prayer salute looks disconcertingly like the salute we used when we said, "I pledge allegiance to the flag," and which was dropped when I was in grade school during World War II because it looked too much like a Nazi salute. And then, I don't think even now Jesus would like to be saluted. Now, before anyone says I'm reaching here, you can go through this whole article. I will post a link to it. It only talks about saluting and Nazis in one section. There's nothing about saluting anywhere else. It's only in one section where they're paired together. And then at the very bottom, it even talks about the Lord himself, Jesus. So obviously they are trying to make that comparison. But I will show you why the LA Times is now going after Christians. It all makes sense now.
Things that was most alarming that I saw recently was this study that came out from Barna. Did you guys see this study that showed, maybe some people have talked about it already, I'm not sure, but 32 million church-going Christians are unlikely to vote in this election. Let me say that number again, 32 million. You know the last election in 2020 was decided by thousands of votes, not millions of votes? This election is ours if Christians will do their duty and elect the right leadership.
And I will get back to that stat in a second about the Christians, but I will also appeal to a left-leaning news source. This is from CNN. Even CNN is showing the numbers where Donald Trump is probably and most likely can control the popular vote. Check this clip out real quick, and then we'll talk about what is going on and why people now are afraid of Christians. In a good way, though.
The bottom line is, with the popular vote, which we really haven't focused upon, a very, very tight race, John. Fact is, Donald Trump is very much in a position he could win the popular vote, which of course is something he would absolutely love to do.
That's right. And look, people who work for these publications understand, they know what's going on, they know the numbers, they know the stats, and they know that Christians now can have an opportunity to control this vote. That stat that you heard, 32 million Christians, those are 32 million church-going Christians. Now, outside of that, a lot of people also identify as a Christian. So outside of the 32 million who go to church, outside of that, there's many tens of millions of more Christians. And I believe, please don't quote me on this, I think it's around 80 million votes was said to be voted for Joe Biden in the last election, that he won the popular vote. So again, Christians now actually own almost half a majority of the votes. And this is why I keep saying people are afraid of Christians. To include the LA Times, to do a smear piece like this is absolutely discriminating, and it's absolutely embarrassing.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling. Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage.
Okay, so that was a real clip from MSNBC calling the Trump event over at Madison Square Garden in New York City. They compared it to a Nazi rally. So they are now generalizing pretty much anyone who attended this event, and I'm sure there were plenty of Christians who were also at this event. So again, I'm not trying to make everything about Christianity. That's sort of the main topic of this video, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the left-leaning media, it does look like they're doing anything they can to discredit anyone who is going to vote for Donald Trump. And Christians, we know, are the easy target. Go after Christians, because why not? They're never going to do anything about it. And also, Christians are so divided as it is with so many different denominations, and you have Catholics and Orthodox and everything else in between with Protestants, it's very easy to go after the Christians. But this time around, we are seeing something different. We are seeing more and more Christians come together. Protestants don't call Catholics Catholics, now they call them Christians. Even the Orthodox are starting to flood into the United States. That church is growing like crazy, which is obviously a super conservative church. So again, the media, like the LA Times, they know what's going on, and they know a majority of Christians are going to vote for Donald Trump due to the more conservative tendencies. So obviously, go after the enemy. The new enemy of the media, it's not Donald Trump, it's not anyone who's conservative, it is the Christian, because they know Christians get taken advantage of, and Christians won't do anything about it. Now, as far as the LA Times, I am not a legal expert, but to me, especially the people in this photo, I don't know how they wouldn't have a case as hate speech or discrimination to compare these people to Nazis. Again, I know the LA Times did it in a very sneaky way, but without a doubt, you can prove just by this section right here, this is the only section where they talk about saluting and they talk about look like the Nazi salute. I don't even think that Jesus would like to be saluted. Again, these guys don't know their theology, but what they do know is let's go after the Christian, because they're not going to do anything about it. I am not sure how LA Times is getting away with it or why they feel so comfortable. I would love to see them use the same energy against the Muslims, who now are all of a sudden teaming up with Christians in America. I'd love to see them use this same aggression against Buddhists, Hindu. They won't, because they're afraid. They hate it because they know Christians control the vote. If you are a Christian, think about this. You now have the potential. One of the only times in history a Christian can actually have a voice and make a choice. So there you go. That's what's going on right now. Shame on the LA Times. What a complete joke. And yeah, I'm very shocked that this happened.